All right, welcome everybody to our 5-minute voter registration webinar. We're going to do this very quickly. If you would like to see the long form version, you can go to our website and check it out there. Voter registration.
So who can vote? You got to be a U.S. citizen. You need to be an Ohio resident, and that just means you have to be a resident 30 days by election day, and you have to be 18 by election day too.
And, in many states, you can't vote if you have a criminal background, but in Ohio you can, as long as you are not presently incarcerated for a felony, which means you can also vote absentee from jail, actually, as long as you're not incarcerated for a felony. And if you are out of prison and you're on probation and parole, you can vote, but you will have to re-register first.
For those of you who are college students, and it's really awesome that, in Ohio we have tons of colleges, they have the choice to register from their campus address or their parents' address. We encourage everybody to go ahead and register from your campus address. Again, you just have to be a resident of Ohio for 30 days by election day, and your decision to vote from campus is not going to affect your financial aid, and even if you have an out-of-state driver's license, it's fine to go ahead and vote from your campus address.
And returning those paper registration forms. So if you're running a voter registration drive, you're going to be responsible for returning the voter registration forms to the Board of Elections, and you have to do that within 10 days after the form has been completed, or by the voter registration deadline if there isn't a 10-day period in between in those things. And this is really important because it's actually a 5th-degree felony to knowingly fail to return any voter registration form or to destroy any completed form. And if you're running a large program, it's really easy to fall behind on keeping up with just getting everything processed and returned to the Board of Elections. But you have to do that within 10 days of completing the voter registration.
And it's 10 calendar days.
That's right. Yeah, that's important to know. Not 10 business days, 10 calendar days. Weekends do count.
So in Ohio, we just started in 2017 online voter registration. You can find it at myohiovote.com. You will need an Ohio driver's license or state ID number, your date of birth, and the last 4 digits of your social to use it, however. But I will let you know that you can, if you want to just check your registration, you can easily do that. There's a shortcut at bit.ly/SOS-lookup, and that is case sensitive.
And this is what that'll look like when you click on that link and go to it. And this allows you to verify the voter registration status of yourself or any voter that you are talking to in the field. All you need is their first, last name, and the county. And then you'll be able to look up what information the Secretary of State has on file.
This is our governor's voter registration information. This would let you see whether or not the registration is current. If they are registered, their registration will pop up this way. If you're not registered, it will say no information found, or perhaps it'll say, an address, and you'll look at it and you'll say, oh, actually that's an old address. That means you'll need to go ahead and update your address.
Yeah, and if nothing comes up, you have to register that person to vote.
Yeah, and you can either do that again, either on myohiovote.com, or you can fill out a new paper registration form.
And, it's really important to be verifying folks' voter registration status because here in Ohio, we have a practice of purging voters from the rolls. There's actually a case that has made its way all the way up to the U.S. Supreme Court around our practice of purging voters. Essentially, boards of elections will send voters who haven't voted in the last 2 years a postcard letting them know that they are eligible to be purged if they don't vote in the next 4 years. And there's, of course, no reason that anybody should be barred from voting for any reason as long as they're an eligible voter, whether they've participated or not in the past. But it's just a best practice to make sure that everyone is actually registered to vote and to verify those people, even if they think that they are.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of people in Ohio move. Approximately 10% of the population moves every year. And people falsely believe that their registration may update with them automatically. And that's just not the case. So it's a great practice to verify your registration at myohiovote.com.
And these are the voter registration deadlines. April 9th, which just passed actually a couple of days ago for us, is the deadline for registering voters to vote in the primary election. And October 9th will be the deadline this year for registering voters to vote in the general election.
And if you're previously registered and you missed the deadline, it just means that you can go ahead and still vote. We don't want people to just sit out the election and say, oops, I missed the deadline, I was supposed to update it. You can still vote. You'll just need to update your registration. on election day or at the early vote center, and vote a provisional ballot.
That's right.
And you'll also need to find your new polling location as well.
Yeah. And if you've moved but you didn't update your registration, you should vote at your new polling location, not the old one. And you can look at some of our other series on election day voting to hear a little bit more information about that. And you can find your polling place at myohiovote.com or at the Election Protection Hotline. So as you're filling out registration forms, these are some of the most common errors. These are things to watch out for. Oftentimes people will leave certain pieces of the form incomplete. Most commonly, the first two boxes on citizenship and age. But also, a lot of times people will not give us their driver's license or social security number, sometimes because the box that is a little small and kind of weird looking, but also because sometimes people feel a little odd about giving strangers any personal information. And so you want to make sure that you get all of that. And it's also frequently, sometimes people forget to date and sign it. So you need to do that. And some of the other errors you want to watch out for are in the box where it asks people to list their county. A lot of people write USA rather than Franklin or Summit or Stark or wherever they might be. So we want to make sure people are writing their county. And sometimes in the box where it asks people to list today's date, they list their birth date. And so those are some of the most common form mistakes, as well as making sure people have their voting address and not just a mailing address or a P.O. box. You can list a P.O. box as sort of your additional address, but you need to list the voting address, which is a residence, to be eligible to vote.
And last but not least, write legibly. If you can't read it, then the Board of Elections probably can't read it either. So you can rewrite, you can scratch it out and rewrite legibly on the form. Okay, so you've registered someone. You can let the person know that within 20 business days, the Board of Elections should be contacting them with a postcard that indicates they have been registered. If they don't get a postcard, they should follow up the Board of Elections to see. It's also a great idea to have that registration on file. That way you can do some of the checking on your end to see if the people you registered make it on the rolls, and have a copy of the registration in case something were to go wrong and the board, for some reason, didn't have a record of them being registered.
Totally. And if you have any other questions, we know this was a quick rapid fire rundown on the rules of voter registration. You can feel free to reach out to us and we would be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Happy registering.